I started college in Pennsylvania in 2021. It was a small campus in a quiet town, the kind of place where everyone knew each other. Most students didn't live in the dorms that year. The pandemic had changed everything. But I couldn't afford an apartment, so I stayed. My building was half empty. My roommate and I had texted a little before moving in. She seemed polite. Short replies, no emojis, just facts. When I met her, she barely smiled. She looked at me like I'd walked into her space. That first night, while unpacking, she said something that still sticks in my head. "Last semester, everyone got their own rooms," she told me. "Until they added you." I laughed, but she didn't. She barely stayed during the week. She'd disappear into her boyfriend's room every night. I mostly had the place to myself, but every Friday, I'd pack my bag and drive home. Mondays, I'd come back around 6 in the morning. The building was always dead silent at that hour. The first Monday, I came back, dropped my bag, and climbed into bed. I was exhausted. 10 minutes later, I felt my mattress shift. The edge pressed down just slightly, like someone had leaned on it. I thought maybe I imagined it, until it lifted again. I looked over. She was lying on her bed, turned toward the wall, sound asleep. I told myself it was nothing. The next week, same thing. I got back Monday morning, half asleep, crawled into bed and felt it again. But this time, the whole side sank, like someone was sitting right next to me. I froze, every muscle locked. Then I heard a quiet thump, like someone had jumped off the bed. When I turned my head, she was still in her bed facing the wall. My brain scrambled for logic. Maybe I dreamed it. Maybe I was overtired. But my heart wouldn't slow down. Something felt wrong. The third Monday, I came back early again. She was already there this time, lying on her bed, but this time facing me. I tried to act calm, climbed into mine, and shut my eyes. A few minutes later, my bed dipped again. My throat closed up. Then I felt it. A hand, cold, flat, on the back of my neck, not squeezing, just resting there. I stayed frozen, barely breathing. After what felt like forever, the pressure lifted. I counted to 60 before opening my eyes. She was turned away again, like nothing happened. I grabbed my phone and walked straight out of the room. I called my mom, shaking so hard I could barely hold the phone. She called the dorm office. They moved me out the same day. Later, I started remembering things. She'd once mentioned her old roommate didn't last long. She also had a drawer filled with prescription bottles, at least 10 of them. When I asked about it, she said they were for acne. A week later, she texted me. "You left your book here," she said. "Come get it." I ignored it. Then another text. "You left your binder too." I finally went, just to end it. My old key still worked. The room was empty when I entered. I grabbed my things and turned to leave. She was standing in the doorway. I hadn't even heard the lock click. "Where's your new room?" she asked. "First floor," I said. "Which hall?" I lied. "Near the stairs." She nodded slowly, eyes unblinking. I slipped past her and walked away fast. I never saw her again. But sometimes, I still think about that hand. How calm it felt. Like it wasn't trying to hurt me, just testing how close it could get. Story 2. It was my final semester at Hawthorne University, Illinois. My professor was known for giving impossible deadlines. The project was due the next morning. My laptop had completely crashed, so I went to the business building late at night to use their computers. That building always creeped me out. It was old, half renovated, and too quiet. I got there around 10. The hall lights buzzed overhead, and the air smelled faintly of bleach. I swiped in and went straight to the computer lab on the second floor. For the first hour, it was peaceful. Just me, the hum of the computers, and the sound of my keyboard. Then, out of nowhere, A loud door slam echoed through the hall. Not the main one, but deeper inside the building. I froze, staring at the lab door. Maybe it was just the air pressure. Maybe someone dropped something. Then I heard footsteps. Heavy, slow footsteps, dragging slightly, moving closer. They stopped outside the door. I didn't move. I could see the reflection of the small glass window in the monitor, but couldn't bring myself to look directly. Then the handle rattled. Once. Then harder. The door was locked automatically after 9, but whoever was outside didn't care. They kept twisting it, harder and faster, until the sound echoed through the room. Then silence. The footsteps turned, moved down the hallway, and disappeared. I sat there shaking, staring at the screen. I told myself it was just another student, or maybe security. 10 minutes later, I heard a new sound, this time above me. It wasn't pipes or air vents. It was something dragging slowly across the ceiling tiles, a weight shifting carefully from one panel to the next. I looked up. One of the tiles flexed. Dust fell. Someone was up there. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it. I pulled my flash drive, stuffed it into my pocket, and ran. The lights flickered as I hit the stairwell. When I pushed the door open, I made the mistake of looking up. On the landing above, one floor up, stood a man. He was tall, his clothes torn and filthy, his face half hidden by shadow. His mouth hung open, not wide enough to scream, but enough to see the darkness inside. He didn't move. He just stood there, watching me. I bolted down the stairs, slammed through the exit, and ran across campus without looking back. The next morning, I had to return the project in person. I walked back into that building under bright daylight, trying to convince myself I'd imagined it. But when I reached the lab, one ceiling tile above my workstation was missing. Another one, in the far corner, was cracked and hanging loose. Someone had been up there, right above me, watching, waiting. That night, I bought a new laptop, and I've never stepped into that building again after sunset. Story 3. My name's Leah. I'm from Manchester, and this happened when I was 16. My school had just moved into a brand new building, split into 3 parts: a nursery, a special education section, and our high school. Anyone could walk into the foyer, but you needed a school lanyard with an ID card to get past the inner doors. Every door inside worked the same way. No scan, no entry. It was only my second week there. I'd been sick most of the first week, so I was still figuring things out. That day, we had geography all day, and I remember downing a big bottle of juice at lunch because drinks weren't allowed in class. About 20 minutes later, I really needed to use the bathroom. My teacher wasn't happy. We just had a break. But he could see I was desperate, so he let me go. The hallways were empty. During lessons, no one really walks around. Even teachers usually stay put. I pushed through the double doors into the cafeteria, which was completely deserted, used the bathroom, and came back the same way. But when I stepped into the cafeteria again, someone was sitting there, a man, alone at one of the tables. He was too old to be a student. I figured maybe a teacher or a parent. He looked up and said, "Hey." I jumped a bit. It was so quiet that his voice startled me. He laughed softly and said, "Didn't mean to scare you." He had a lanyard around his neck, so I assumed he worked there. The only thing that stood out was his ID card. It was flipped around, the blank side facing out. Students did that all the time because the scanners worked either way, but I'd never seen a teacher wear it like that. I didn't think much of it at the time. "I need a hand getting some work stuff from my car," he said. "Just for a second." I said, "Sure." I didn't even hesitate. He walked beside me out of the cafeteria, through the foyer, and into the front car park. The whole time, he didn't say a word. He just kept shifting his hands in and out of his pockets, like he was nervous. I'm shy, so I didn't start any small talk either. The car park was about 50 meters away, behind some tall bushes. From the doors, you couldn't see it until you were almost there. He pointed. "It's the blue car down at the end," he said. "I've got a few bags in the boot." I nodded and followed. We got closer, and I saw movement inside the car. Just a quick flicker. I thought maybe something hanging from the mirror, until I realized there were people inside. 2 men, crouched in the back seat, trying to stay low. My stomach dropped. I froze. He must have noticed because the back door swung open, and one of them started climbing out fast. The man next to me grabbed my arm. He was huge compared to me. I'm 5'2" and barely 100 pounds. I don't even know how I did it, but I tore my arm free and started running back toward the school. I could hear them running after me. Their footsteps were heavy and close, but they stopped just before the doors. Maybe because they were glass and automatic and someone could have seen them. I made it inside, straight into the cafe next to the library. I ran up to the woman behind the counter, shaking so hard I could barely talk. She got me into a teacher's office, called my parents, and called the police. Security checked the cameras in the parking lot. The men were caught later that day and charged with attempted kidnapping. The police said the man used a student's lost lanyard to get inside. That's why his ID was flipped, to hide the picture. He must have been waiting for someone alone in the hallways, someone like me. I didn't go back to school for a couple of weeks. Even now, years later, I still look twice at anyone wearing a lanyard, because that day taught me something. Danger doesn't always come in dark alleys or late at night. Sometimes it's in the middle of the day, in a quiet school hallway, wearing a fake smile and someone else's ID. If these stories made your skin crawl, remember, every single one came from real people. Real dorms, real hallways, real seconds where the world stopped feeling safe. The next time you walk alone after class, or swipe your card through a silent building, trust that little voice in your head. It's not paranoia, it's survival. You've been listening to The Untold Archive, where the horror isn't fiction, it's memory. If you want more true stories that stay with you long after the screen goes dark, subscribe now, turn on the bell, and help us reach more people who love real-life horror told the way it happened. Comment below. Which story haunted you most tonight? Because